The issue of corruption and the need for the NDC to prioritize its fight is not only politically expedient, but I will say it's democratically expedient as well. I said before the last general election that the life of our democracy was going to depend on how, the NDC government fought corruption after the victory that was quite obvious even before the elections. And I still stand by it, because so many of our population are beginning to lose confidence in the democratic experiment, especially because of how they see political players fleece the nation and get away with it. It is therefore, or it wasn't surprising to me when during the swearing in of His Excellency President Mahama, one of the leaders from Africa who drew the loudest applause was the leader of Burkina Faso, who had just successfully overthrown a democratically elected government and was seen to be championing anti-corruption. That, for me, was re-echoing the expectations of the teeming numbers of people who queued to vote for the NDC to win the last general election. Again, researchers will tell you that of all the promises that NDC made prior to the 2024 general election, the one that was among the most popular promises accepted by people of all, backgrounds was the issue of oral and the pledge to, carry out an operation that will retrieve all loot. It was popular then, it's still very popular. And so the life of our democracy, to a very large extent, depend on how we send a signal to majority of our people that this government is different. This government is not only committed to not stealing their resources, but is actually also committed to retrieving resources that have already been stolen. It is one major way of, instilling confidence once again in our democracy and making people believe that even without a coup, even without a military leader, people who engage in corruption can be punished. It is the expectation of many people, and we have to live up to that expectation. It is in the light of that expectation that I am excited about how the Attorney General has approached his work so far. Some have criticized his approach, but I wonder on what basis they do so. Because, Senna, a prosecutor is allowed and permitted, in my view, to state his convictions on why he is engaging in a prosecution. I don't think that any prosecutor with an iota of doubt about a case will continue to press on. So before charges are filed against a person by a prosecutor, the prosecutor may have been absolutely convinced about a wrongdoing. Otherwise, there's no need to, bring a charge against anyone. Because you know that the burden of proof is on you, the prosecutor, as far as our laws are concerned. And so, unless you want to engage in frivolity, there's no point in bringing up charges against somebody when you have some doubt about the charges you are bringing. And so just as a defense attorney has the right to address the media and state reasons why he thinks his client is innocent, and give convincing or things that he thinks are convincing enough to defend the client, a prosecutor is also entitled, in my view, to strongly state his position on why he is bringing charge A or B against a defendant. I think it is in that context that we must view what the Attorney General is doing. The Attorney General is a prosecutor, and he is convinced beyond reasonable doubt that he has a case against the people that he has named and has charged. And so it is for him to state clearly and emphatically why he is going to court. It is up to the judiciary to agree with him or not. If the judiciary disagree with him, it is now for us to begin to wonder if our Attorney General is up to the task or not, and if his analysis of the situations are good or not. It is now at that point that we will assess the integrity, will assess the capacity and the intellectual capacity and resource of the Attorney General. But at this stage, for him to have doubts about charges, then it already gives you an indication that he may not get a successful prosecution. So he ought to be very convinced that the charges are solid. And so I do not understand why people who are concerned about the defense cannot also, if they are counsels to the defense, mount the media platform, because it is free. No one owns the media. They can also design their own platform, call the media, and also give us reasons why they are innocent. And then at the end of the day, the justices of the courts will agree with either the prosecution or the defense team. It is as simple as that. But what is done for me is not novel, because in other jurisdictions it is clear that prosecutors update their audience on cases that they are prosecuting. It is normal practice. Tune on to CNN, tune to BBC. You will hear prosecutors on several cases updating citizens and their audience on the state of the case and why they are going to court. It is very, very normal. Today. I'm sure if you watch CNN from morning to evening, you will find one attorney or the other addressing the media on one case or the other and stating reasons why he is in court or she is in court. It is very, very normal, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. After all, Senator, let's not forget that our Constitution says that justice is done in the name of the people. And so if the Attorney General is leading that justice that the people are seeking, how better can he carry the people along to be assured that this justice that he is seeking is actually going to be in their name? How better can he do that? So I think that the Attorney General must continue with what he is doing, but he must also put a solid team in place to not only convince us in the media, but to also convince the justices in the court, so that successful prosecutions can be attained. And that, like I said earlier, will go a long way to engender more confidence in not only our judiciary, but also in our democracy. I was a bit disappointed when the issue of Ken Ofori-Atta came up and the OSP responded that the docket was ready and they were yet to actually furnish the Attorney General's department with the information that it requested to facilitate the extradition of the former finance minister. I was a bit disappointed in the conduct of the OSP at that point. But generally, I have never really been very confident in the office. I have always had my reservations. From the formation of the office, I've always had my reservations about, what the office was going to add really to the fight against corruption. I am for the argument that there's a need for us to look at separating the Attorney General's office from the Minister of Justice, just so that we can give more bite to the fight against corruption, especially when it involves even sitting, government officials. But I didn't think that, I was hoping that the Office of Special Prosecutor will play that role. But from the way it was formed, my hope was immediately even dashed at that point. I didn't see the office really playing that role of, being that independent to complement the prosecutions of the Minister of Justice and Attorney General in the fight against corruption. And so I sometimes feel indifferent when issues about the OSP come up. But on this particular case of the extradition of Ken Ofori-Atta, I was disappointed that the OSP office didn't live up to the expectation of the Attorney General in facilitating his extradition, because the former finance minister is a prime person of interest as far as the issues of corruption that took place in the last 8 years is concerned. He's a prime person of interest. And so issues related to him should not be frivolous. And I thought that the splashing of the headlines about he being a wanted person would have also been followed up with very, immediate steps to ensure that he was brought back home to face justice. And so for the conversation to seem to suggest that some alacrity was not attached to the processes that will enable his extradition felt disappointing for me. But by and large, I want to once again encourage the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, and his team to continue with what they are doing and to put their house in order well, so that they can actually secure successful prosecutions for us. Because the life, like I started with in the beginning, of our democracy depends on the successful prosecutions and the success of oral in general. Many people will begin to have more confidence in our democracy when they begin to see that people who engage in corrupt practices are actually being held responsible and punished even under a democracy. Otherwise, you find people tempted to think that issues of corruption can only be squarely dealt with better under a military regime. And we do not want to experiment with that again. I mean, some of the cases, when they are narrated, and the documents are presented, they are so mind-boggling. And, Senna, sometimes when I was listening to Attorney General the other day, I was like, okay, so I understand why sometimes people have certain expectations of, some of us in the positions that we are in. Expectations that you find weird. But when you listen to what others are doing with their positions, the amounts of monies they are transferring from place to place and using to purchase assets. I mean, sometimes you are somewhere and somebody is selling some property to you, and you are wondering why the person is quoting those prices and thinking you can engage in even, what do you call it? You can engage in a purchase conversation. So you begin to understand why people have certain expectations of us politicians in general, when you begin to hear some of these things, because there are some things that you find weird. How is somebody able to amass that level of wealth within that short possible time? And you can't just wrap your head around it. And that is why there's a need. That's why there's a need for these prosecutions to serve as a warning to all of us, in public office, to know that, look, there is always a day of accountability. It is important that these prosecutions succeed to serve a warning to all those who are currently occupying public office. My disappointment, Senna, my greatest disappointment in all of this is that so far the people that the Attorney General have put out there who are engaged in multi-million dollar, illegal transactions are all people that I am older than. It's my greatest disappointment. They are all people I am older than. And I'm asking myself, why have we over the years, requested for opportunities for young people? And yet when these young people, when these opportunities are extended to us, we engage in these sort of things that are reported about. It just, in my view, defeats that call for young people to be given the opportunity because they have fresh blood, they have new ideas to transform the country. These are not the ideas that transform nations. And so for me, in all of the conversation, my biggest disappointment is the fact that young people with, beautiful opportunities have engaged in such shameful acts as being reported. And it is my hope that the Attorney General will be able to retrieve some of these resources and not only secure successful prosecutions that will lead to some jail sentences.